Hi guys, hope you're all doing well and are safe and healthy. My name's Rachel Johnson. Um, I went to OCSA from ninth grade to my senior year, and I graduated 2018. It's weird. Um, so I'm just going to talk about my experience from OCSA going to NYU, New York, and my transition there, and things that I missed and things that helped me. So, so after my first year at OCSA, it was, not gonna lie, it was hard. It wasn't so much the hours I had to put in, because we are there long days, 3 days of the week. It can, so depending on what hours you're given, each group is given different hours to be at studio. It can be from 8:30 to 5:30. But for me, I found it hard making friends in studio. I just never really clicked with the people in my studio. I don't know why. I have theories, but it just never really happened. But aside from that, I liked my teachers. I think what they had to say was great. I do think that stuff I learned at OCSA, I definitely was being retaught in my first year for sure. Things about objectives, tactics, all that kind of jazz. They definitely go over it in your first year. And so, while it's great to get a repeat and hear things over and over again, it is kind of, I guess, discouraging at first because you feel like you're not growing at all. Towards my first semester, I think towards the end, I found myself growing more. Or I noticed the growth, I guess I should say. I definitely miss OCSA, for sure. I think my group in my year were so close that it was super hard coming into another group of kids where you don't know each other and you're not close and then you're not clicking. And then you're like, this doesn't make sense. I'm not clicking with people. The atmosphere and the environment I wasn't enjoying as much because it was weird. I just was used to being in a place where people wanted to be there and were respectful to the teachers and were listening to the teachers and were not basically like, oh, this stuff they're giving me is stupid, I don't need that. And I didn't really quite get why people felt that way once I got my studio. And it's like I've talked to other years below and above me, and they don't seem to have those problems. So I decided to take an academic break, and I was like, okay, well, I just need a break from this and give myself time to think about what I want and if that is to continue going to school for acting. I'm enjoying my academics, like enjoying going every day to class, or when I do have classes. I'm working on more short films, building up my reel. I think that's the biggest thing I have been doing. I think trying to progress forward in what I want to do, which is film. So I think OCSA definitely prepared me for going to NYU. The long hours, definitely, for sure. I would be, like, I live in Riverside, so, which isn't crazy far, but I would be up at, like, 5 to 5:30, depending on what I needed to do that day. And then I would get on the 6:20 train, walk to the bus stop, get on the bus, and then go to class and get to school. And, I'd be up from there till school ended up like 5:40, I think. And then sometimes have rehearsal afterwards. So I wouldn't get home sometimes till like 10 or later because I would then have to drive home. So I think that definitely helped, just needing to be up and needing to have energy and needing to schedule your time and being organized that way. I found I didn't really have a problem doing that. In New York, I I was doing Tisch, and then I was also working, and then also, doing classes, academics. In my first year, a typical day with studio would be waking up at, if I had studio at 8:30, I'd probably wake up at like 7 so I can catch the train, because we're all the way down on Wall Street, and NYU campus is kind of like near Washington Square Park. So I would take the train to Wall Street, and then we would have class probably at like 8:30. That's usually that was my earliest class I had. And we would have like a 2-hour class, depending on what it was, a 3-hour class, and then we'd go to our next class, which is probably another 2 hours, and then by then we might have a lunch break, or we'd have another class. That's 2 hours, then have our lunch break, and then another class after that. And I usually got done at like 5:30 or 5. So the classes I had my first semester, my first year, were voice and speech, character, scene study, acting tech, and movement. I think that's all. And for voice and speech, it was basically, we didn't learn dialects or anything like that. It was the best way we can talk with the English language, and being able to not only use our body to tell a story, but being able to use our voice. So for our first year, we would get a poem, and we got to pick it, and we would work on it with her. Every day, a few kids would work on it, and by the end of that semester, we had to present it to her, and we had to just use our voice. We couldn't move. It was hands to your side, don't move, just use your voice, and being able to tell a story with your voice. For character, I love this class so much. Our teacher's name was Betsy. I think now she's like 94 years old. Crazy. 94 years old. This lady doesn't use a walker or anything. And our character class was basically it was to allow us to shape ourselves into anything. So we would work on being nuns or priests, queens and kings, pharaohs, emperors, all that. And we would get a text sometimes, but most of the time we started off with saying, with a list of things that helped us visualize it, and connecting animals with the character we were being. So, for example, if we were being, for example, we came in with a Shakespeare piece, and say someone was doing Juliet. Give a great example, easy. They could say, "I'm as sweet as a rose." And then they would come up with other synonyms for sweet and things that remind them of roses. If someone was someone who was a bad guy, they would say, "I'm as sly as a fox." And they would say, "I'm sneaky, I'm whatever synonyms are with sly, and whatever words they associate with fox." And you would say these out loud, and you would allow it to affect you. Not trying to do anything with it, just allowing it to happen. And that I learned so much from, because I think I always had this idea in my mind that, like, oh, I can only be certain things. Like, I'm just not able to do those things. I'm not funny. I'm not whatever. But doing this helped to really break down this person, whoever it was we were being, and giving them traits, even just small things, and just being detailed with it. Um, yeah, that was great. And you got to dress up for the final presentation of it. You got to dress up. So we did one where we were kings and queens, and and then scene study. Teacher was amazing. Um, her name's Alice. She was so interactive. And I like someone who's interactive, who gets up there and like works with you. And there was points where she was like, now I'm directing. So that was great, being able to. And she did a good thing where she was like, she asked us how we felt first. She asked us, what are you trying to do, rather than telling us how it should be. If we were completely way off, she would help us, obviously. But if we were on the right track, she would tell us to give the story, and then she would either add on to it, or she would give you something to try. She's great. And then my movement class was taught by, her name's Joanne, and she's funny. She's so scary, so intimidating. I was so scared of her, because she's very intense, but she just cares. That's why. It's because she cares. And by the end of first semester, I was fine. This class was very much working together in an ensemble and creating movement pieces, improvising movement pieces with pieces of music, and allowing our bodies to work together and feel each other's energy, and being aware of each other. It was a lot about awareness. And we would create movement pieces at the end of the year, and we would show them to the other teachers and sometimes other classes that were able to attend. It was really cool to see those happening, and see how different each group's was. Another thing she really focuses on is allowing yourself to be seen, she says, and sitting up straight, walking as I'm like cleaning, and being able to walk into a room and allowing yourself to have the space and being confident is a lot of what it was. Those classes were super great. Second semester, I think we added a class, and that was ballet, and we learned ballet, which was great. And then second semester, second year, first semester, we took voice and speech again, different teacher, worked on similar things. We didn't have character, unfortunately. We did have scene study, different teacher also, and this scene study went a lot quicker. It was more, whereas 2 scenes would go up in a class, whereas my other scene study, it would be like one pair, one scene would go up, and she would spend a lot of time working on that, whereas this one was, I think it was it 2 people? I think it was 2 scenes went up. Yeah. Or 2 or 3. I think it was more than that. It was like 4 or 3. It was a lot. And it would just be, you do your scene, he gives you notes, and then you go and work on it, on your own, outside of class. And you do 2 scenes, you work on it, and then you have your final, and then you get your next scene and you work on it, and then you have your final. And whereas last year, first semester and second semester, you would get a scene, and if she thought you were ready to move on, my nose ring just fell out. But whereas your first year scene study, you get to, if she thinks you're ready to move on with a different scene, she would give you one. So you could work on like 3 scenes, or 3 to 4 scenes in that area. Usually it's 2, but if she thought you were ready to move on, it could be from 3 to 4. Yeah, and so that was very different than the scene study for first semester. So we had acting tech first semester, and that was a lot of being specific. We did a lot of stuff where it was breathing and seeing and allowing yourself to take in everything. We did little exercises that help with that. And then second semester, we had Shakespeare, which was, that teacher's intimidating too. Super scary. Her name's Angela. She intimidates pretty much everyone at first sight. So we had Shakespeare. We would do 2 scenes, and she would work with us, similar to scene study, but it was Shakespeare, like first year's scene study, and she would work with us on it. And then we also had verse and text, which is working on Shakespeare's stuff, and we learn about like more about the technical side of Shakespeare and the words and that kind of stuff, which helps. And being able to use like how you can use the words for your acting. And then we had boot camp movement with Casey, and that was it was very different than the first year's movement. It was a lot of kind of being able to have stamina, because if you're working long shows and sometimes you have fight scenes, there was a lot of that. And we would just do the craziest things if you walked in there and just saw us. We'd be moving around to music, and it was basically, a 2-hour workout, but it was great. So those were those classes. And then second semester, I kind of know the classes, but I don't really know much about them because academic break, I'm on academic semester. I really enjoy the classes. I think even though at first it was hard to see if I was progressing because I felt like I was repeating some things, I do feel like in different areas I definitely grew. And then things that I learned at OCSA that definitely helped me was definitely things like the objectives, what you're doing, coming up with being specific. 100% helped me there, without a doubt. I mean, even though they were reteaching that stuff, I already kind of had, I guess, a head start on that stuff because I was aware that those were things you had to do, and those were things that I did for my audition, and those were things I would do for my scenes that we would have in classes. I definitely miss OCSA a lot. I miss my conservatory. I miss my friends. I miss just the people there. I was lucky enough, I had great experiences with people, and our group was really close. And, like, it was like a family, we were all there for each other. And while some people may have been closer to other people, it was never like, I never felt any sort of competition needing to be better than anybody. It was just like, we're all there to support each other. And that changed a lot. That's what I got from my studio and my group in my year. It was definitely competitive. They were definitely kind of more, and not that, like, I think there is obviously always going to be some kind of competitiveness, but not to the point where you should be mean to people and put them down. And there was a lot of that going on in my studio, which I personally didn't like, obviously. I don't think anyone likes when other people are mean to other people. But there was a lot of that, or just kind of cattiness and going off in your groups, to whether it be videotaping people during class and laughing at them. That happened quite a lot, which I was like, what? So I started not enjoying it as much anymore, and wasn't sure if it was NYU as a whole, or if it was just my studio, or what happened, because I liked my teachers, everything I was doing in class, I was learning, I was engaging, but I did start getting pulled back because I just wasn't enjoying the environment, the atmosphere, the people, and that all kind of played in. I let that play into effect. And so then I decided to take an academic year this semester, and next semester. And that is basically where I'm not in studio right now. I'll finish my primary training next spring. So I love my academic year. I'm really glad I took it. It gave me time to think, gave me more opportunities to do things like short films, like, because my studio isn't very happy when you audition for things. I don't want to say happy, but they are very particular about where you're auditioning for things, and they think that they should be the main focus, everything. You should be doing everything there. You shouldn't be auditioning outside of class right now, which I found weird. So I've been doing a lot of short films, building up my reel to be able to audition and hopefully get an agent. And by the way, about that, my studio there's no type of business class, which, like, on acting, which I thought was interesting. I'm so glad I had that at OCSA. Shout out to Miss Lang. Because I learned so much and still have the notes from her class that my studio doesn't teach me. I'm in an elective class right now called Stone Street, so I'm still like taking an acting class because I didn't want to completely cut it out. But I'm doing it's only film acting, and like they do voiceover stuff, and they teach you kind of in those areas. And they talk about it in there, but if you want to be in Stone Street, you have to do your first 2 primary years and then audition to be in it. But at least I got to take the elective for it. So I'm learning more about that stuff. That's preparing me more for when I get done with college and the outside world, whereas I felt like my studio is only preparing me inside their little circle, whether it's like a little theater company that they work with, and then their studio. That is my opinion. That is what I felt. So one thing I think that NYU has done for me that's good is the connections. I've been able to meet people and do short films with them. And I'll do a short film with them, and then someone on their crew will see me and be like, oh, can I have her number to be able to have her in my short film? So I've been able to do all that stuff, and I've done, I think in the last few weeks, I think I did 4 or 5 short films, which I felt like is pretty well, and it's super cool being able to do it, because what they do is they have it in their Tisch building, and they have this like studio where it's set up like if you were in a studio, I guess, for a TV show, and they have like set designs, and they have this booth thing, and they have like all these cameras that are like surrounded. So I think it's super cool, and being able to experience that and know and just get a glimpse of what it would look like to be on a set. And it's quick when most of the time when we film them, because it's for their projects, and while they're filming, that's like counted as their class. That's their classes. They're filming us, and so we usually have an hour to do everything. We usually get there an hour early so we can run it, and then they have an hour to set up, film, and then take down. Another thing besides acting for short films that I've been doing is I did this talent competition where I sang and played piano, and I won Best Solo for that. This was with my school, so that was really cool experience to do. I was definitely out of my box. I'm always very nervous to sing in front of people, but I'm glad I pushed myself to do things out of my box. I think that's a lot of what I've been doing this year is meeting new people, pushing myself out of my box, auditioning for short films. I'm terrified of auditioning. But yeah, that's really what I've been up to this year. I hope it was helpful. I know it wasn't all positive, but I wanted to be honest. So I hope that was helpful. I wish you guys the best. I hope your family and you guys are all safe and healthy. And if you need anything, don't hesitate to reach out. My email is rcj267@nyu.edu. And you can just email me there any questions about anything, or if you just want to talk and meet, all good with that. We can do a Zoom. Yeah, I wish you guys the best. Bye.